are you guys?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Oh, my boys. All my boys are here.
We are all here.
Reunion for you guys?
Now we hang out. That's the thing.
We haven't been in the same room with each other. It's been over a year.
Wow.
We just really like each other, right?
Yeah. No, I hang out with all you guys individually,
Right.
all the time. So I feel like I see you guys pretty often.
So maybe we should get together and do something.
Yeah, premiere party, crab boil.
All right, we're biting into Ashley's time. All right, Ashley, go.
Well, I'm excited to have you guys on. Beautiful film. Loved the message of the film, so I can't wait to dive in with you guys about it. Stanley, I'll start with you. This story covers the intersection of police brutality and a coming out story. Is this a film meant to represent and give voice to the marginalized people at all? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. The nature of the content would highlight that. I think, for me, film and television are the greatest vehicles for empathy that we have. And my mandate with all my work, even outside of Tunde, is to humanize the people of the African diaspora. So anything that I do, particularly this film, I think is voice to the underrepresented and allows those outside of that experience to step into it and feel it viscerally. So yeah, certainly, that's it.
Definitely. Ali, happy belated birthday, by the way. You just had a birthday.
Hey.
My mom has your same birthday, so happy belated birthday.
Tell her happy birthday.
I will. I want to talk a little bit about your perspective of the film as the director. Black people have become desensitized to seeing Black people killed, right, on video. We see it on social media. We see it on the news. I mean, we become numb to it. We're used to it, if you will. And yet in this film, the death of Tunde is on loop. It's repeated over and over and over again. Did directing this film take an emotional toll on you at all?
Yes. Because I mean, it just in terms of rendering that part of the story, I mean, we intentionally tapped into some things that, were drawn from, actual incidents and, and the degree to which, we tried to use that, and I don't like this word. I have a better word, so I'm not going to say the other one. Using it as a foundation to create the scenes that we were creating. It did require, myself and Stanley and certainly Stephen, who was going through these things time and time again, to really just kind of shore yourself up emotionally. And so the ways in which we are able to go through these sort of cyclical events of violence against Black bodies is not unlike what we need to do in terms of rendering the scenes in the film. Like, you have to cut off a part of yourself so that you can do the thing that you need to do, while this other thing that really requires that you sit down and find a way to grieve through it, or find a way to let this experience and how you relate to it make some sort of sense. It's just difficult doing that in the context of the film. And then when you finally do open yourself up to, the real emotions underneath it all, it can be pretty overwhelming. And that didn't just happen because of the Black violence in the film, but I would say I was particularly struck by one of the scenes that Spencer had to go through, and what a toll it took on him, and how great he had been in sort of constraining his emotions around it during the scene, only to have it, come pouring out after. And, it's a challenging space to be in when you're doing material like this.
Stephen, first of all, I loved you in Council of Dead. Love. Wish that show was on a little bit longer.
We friends now.
Never too late to start an online campaign, just in case you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Definitely.
True.
Stephen, your character Tunde grapples with being Black and coming out to your parents, or coming out to his parents. And then the unthinkable happens, as I just mentioned, and it happens over and over again. When your character comes out to his parents, each time they celebrate you, right? Why is it important to show this narrative, which has not been the norm, right, in Black households or Black families. Why was it important to show that narrative? And do you feel like your story or the story of Tunde will give representation to LGBTQ plus members that will watch this film?
Yes, I definitely think it will give representation to the LGBT community. And it was important to show, you know, Stanley wrote it, but from my perspective, it was important to show them accepting him, because when you really break it down, humanity is just this melting pot of different groups of people fighting for psychological real estate. You know, whoever can get the most people to think the way that they think runs the game and makes the rules. There has been a certain psychology that has kind of infested humanity in regards to the LGBT community, which says, you know, hey, we would rather you, you know, generally speaking, a lot of people would rather their kid suffer to the point of death,
right,
to buckle to what they feel is right, you know, to have control over what they feel for their life,
right,
rather than opening up and being open to the possibility that there's another option that you can choose. You know, when you're existing in the planet, sometimes we forget, like, you know, the meal that's being served is not the only one. You can choose other things in life,
right,
you know, and you can choose the things that speak to the greatest good that you can possibly do. And if that means foregoing expressing your turmoil with your child's decision in order to save their life, I think overall that provides the family with a larger net worth of happiness and joy than the opposite, which would be losing that child's life or having a disconnected relationship with that child, which no matter how much you may want to, you know, say that doesn't affect or hurt, it creates a lot of pain. It's a ripple effect of pain. So why not choose the other side?
right,
And see what's there, you know?
definitely. Spencer, your character Soren, you're straddling the fence, right? Your character straddles the fence in which you are in a relationship with two people, right? You're in a relationship with Tunde, and you're also in a relationship with the female character in the film. Your character, I believe, is very relatable because a lot of people are, you know, navigating the space of, do I come out? Do I, you know, stay in the closet? What do I do? So I feel like your character is very relatable. Talk to us a little bit about what your character represents to those who are watching and what you hope people will take away from your character.
What I hope people take away is being a male and growing up where I grew up in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Toxic masculinity is a big problem. I think it is all over the world, but especially where I'm from, and that's my experience. So having this story that is getting to portray this character that is going through these issues. I mean, I was able to just pull from everyday life. I knew this. I've seen family members not be able to be who they were because of societal pressures. And what I hope people can take away from it is that, oh God, regardless of how you feel, because we see that Tunde's dad behind the scenes with the conversation with Tunde,
Mm-hmm.
he would be accepting of Tunde if regardless of how you feel, to be yourself and have that courage, because you never know what people would accept, regardless of the constraints that society puts on you. You never know. And to live with that courage is the most important thing I think that someone could take away from seeing at least Soren's
Right.
part of this story. Okay, there's a lot of things that we could take away from this movie, but from Soren's journey, I think an acceptance of yourself and having the courage to be yourself is the main thing that I would want to see people take away from it.
Definitely. Stanley, there's a scene in the film in which I believe Tunde says, "I'm Black and gay, even those two hate each other." What is the message of this film? What message are you trying to get out? What do you want people to feel after they watch this film?
That's complex. I think in reference to the line that you're talking about, you know, the film really plays and lives in a space of intersectionality. Whether that's, from the Black, queer, diasporic angle, you really sit, and like an immigrant angle as well, you really sit in the space where, and me and Stephen talk about this all the time, where when you can exist there, you can comment and understand all sides of this, of like where society lays, right? So when it comes down to the Black and gay line, it's to understand that those two generally have been like diametrically opposed. There is a lot of homophobia within the African American community, the Black community, and that is something that they have to confront, and we have to confront collectively. There is certainly violence, both emotional and socio-political violence, and state-sponsored violence against Black bodies and Black people that an audience that's outside of that experience needs to watch the movie in order to gain that experience, in order to have empathy, and gain a general understanding of what it's like to be a Black person within this country. The beauty about the intersection is that the film can comment against white supremacy and make sure that those watching can confront their own racism, internally and externally, but also is able to comment internally within the Black community on how do we treat those that are other within our community when we ourselves are already other. And I think, so constructing a film like this with these ideas in place just allows for every angle of Blackness to be humanized. Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I also think that when you watch the film, to me, the film is a cinematic visual of the structure that people, what you hear on Twitter, what you hear as people like to say, woke crowd say, the structure of racism. This is a cinematic representation of that. And if you look at the word intersection, I mean, think about a street, you know what I mean? If you're in the middle of a block, you can only see north and south. Right. But when you go to the intersection, you can see north, south, east, west, northeast, whatever. So it's the people that are at the intersection that give us the greatest perspective of who we are as a species. And so I think that's why it's important, because if you remove Tunde, if Tunde gets liberated in the LGBT sense, he's still going to be fighting racism. If he avoids getting, killed by the police, he still has to deal with the LGBT situation. So bigotry, those things, racism and homophobia are side effects. They're not the root cause. The root cause is, making the mistake that, you can be apathetic to the sun because it exists light years away. The sun is integral to our existence as a species. Just because it's light years away doesn't mean you can you're not connected to it. And just because you're not LGBTQ or you're not Black doesn't mean that your liberation doesn't depend on those people getting free as well.
Mm. That's good, Stephen. Thank you guys so much. I think that's my time. I appreciate you guys. Beautifully directed film, Ali. Stanley, beautifully written. Thank you. And you guys, Stephen and Spencer, killed it. I mean, it's a beautiful story. Although tragic, it's still a beauty inside of it. So thank you guys for creating this space. Thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
All right. Take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
Where is the buzz? Where is the buzz? You said
We used to be
was
ashamed, bro.
mine.
Where is the buzz?
Ooh.